They appeared in 220 films throughout their career, including 190 short films released by Columbia Pictures in the 1930s, 40s, and 50s.
The Three Stooges are remembered for wild eye pokes, slaps, and unstoppable laughter. But behind the curtain of comedy was a world of tragedy, controversy, and astonishing secrets. From mysterious deaths to secret filmmaking tricks, the Stooges' story is filled with the unexpected. What began as lighthearted vaudeville evolved into a phenomenon that mirrored the chaos of Hollywood itself. Yet, few fans truly know what went on when the cameras stopped rolling. Today, we count down 20 weird, true, and verifiable facts about the men who defined slapstick. And we'll begin with the most shocking of them all, a death so mysterious it changed comedy history forever. Curley's mysterious illness and the fall of a comedy genius. Curley Howard was the beating heart of the Three Stooges. His wild energy, barking sound effects, and innocent charm made him a comedy icon. Yet, behind his laughter, Curley was quietly falling apart. In the mid-1940s, fans began to notice he was slowing down, losing his spark. What few knew was that Curley was battling a series of devastating health issues, worsened by exhaustion, alcohol, and stress. He suffered from hypertension and extreme fatigue from Columbia Pictures' relentless filming schedule. On May 6, 1946, during the filming of Half-Wit's Holiday, Curley collapsed on set from a massive stroke. It ended his career instantly. He was only 43. Moe, his brother, was shattered. He spent years trying to care for Curley as his health declined. Curley suffered several more strokes before dying in 1952. His downfall marked one of the saddest chapters in comedy history. Behind the manic laughter was a man pushed to his limit by fame and studio control. Curley's legacy remains untouchable, but his story reminds us that genius often comes at a terrible cost. Shemp's shocking death and the rise of the fake Shemp. Shemp Howard, the older brother of Moe and Curley, stepped in after Curley's stroke. He revived the group with his sharp timing and distinct style. But tragedy struck again in 1955. After attending a boxing match in Hollywood, Shemp collapsed in a taxi on his way home. He had suffered a fatal heart attack at age 60. The Stooges had several unfinished films under contract, and Columbia Pictures demanded they complete them. With shocking efficiency, producers used stand-ins and recycled footage to replace Shemp. Actor Joe Palma was hired to pose as Shemp in backshots, his face hidden by props or shadows. This created the now famous industry term, fake Shemp, which later became part of Hollywood slang for stand-in or body double work. Audiences at the time had no idea. The transitions were seamless enough that only decades later did fans realize they were watching Shemp's doubles. Shemp's sudden death was a painful blow to his brothers, but his commitment to comedy never faded. Even in death, the team made sure his presence remained part of their films. The fake Shemp legacy became one of the strangest and most fascinating stories in film production history. The Blacklist that nearly ended their career. In post-war Hollywood, the 1950s brought paranoia, suspicion, and fear. The Red Scare swept through the entertainment industry, and anyone accused of communist ties could lose their career overnight. The Three Stooges, despite being pure entertainers, were not immune to the hysteria. In 1951, several studios quietly blacklisted Moe and Larry after anonymous accusations that they had performed at events linked to left-leaning groups. While the allegations were false, the damage was real. Columbia canceled their planned projects, and television networks avoided airing their older shorts. The trio's income vanished almost overnight. Moe Howard spent years lobbying for their reinstatement, writing letters to studio heads, and arguing that the Stooges were clowns, not politicians. Eventually, the truth came out. They were cleared of any wrongdoing, but the scandal scarred their reputation. Ironically, this setback led them to television syndication, where reruns of their older films introduced them to millions of new fans. The blacklisting crisis nearly destroyed them, but in surviving it, they found a second life. The laughter they brought to audiences became their ultimate redemption, turning censorship into the very thing that reignited their fame. The unbelievable feud with Ted Healey. Before the Three Stooges became stars, they were part of Ted Healey's vaudeville act, Ted Healey and His Stooges. Healey was a comedian and promoter who discovered Moe Howard and later added Larry and Curley. Together, they became one of the most popular acts in New York's theater circuit. But fame and greed tore them apart. Healey was known for his temper and drinking problem. As the Stooges' popularity grew, Healey began taking a larger share of their earnings and publicly belittling them. Moe finally had enough. In 1934, he, Larry, and Curley walked away from Healey to start their own act. Healey sued them for breach of contract, though the case was later dismissed. He died mysteriously in 1937 after a bar fight in Hollywood, just as the Stooges' film career was taking off. The cause of his death was listed as kidney failure, but rumors of foul play never faded. The feud between Healey and his former protégés remains one of the most dramatic behind-the-scenes stories in comedy history. It was a turning point that transformed the Stooges from stage clowns into cinematic legends. Columbia Pictures and the exploitation of the Stooges. Behind their slapstick glory was an ugly truth. The Three Stooges worked for Columbia Pictures for over 2 decades, producing nearly 200 shorts. Yet, they were paid as contract employees, never receiving royalties or residuals. The films earned millions for Columbia, while the Stooges were paid as little as $600 per short. Columbia executives viewed them as cheap filler between major releases. The studio recycled their footage and released it internationally, without giving them a share of the profits. When television syndication began in the 1950s, the Stooges saw none of the revenue from reruns that made them famous all over again. Moe Howard once said, "We were the workhorses of Columbia. We made them rich, but we never saw the gold." Their story reflects the darker side of Hollywood's golden age, when studios owned their stars completely. The laughter was real, but behind it was exhaustion, frustration, and unfair treatment. Still, the Stooges never stopped performing. They kept making people laugh, even when the system failed them. Their humor outlasted the greed that tried to contain it. The blackface controversies that haunted the Stooges. While millions adored the Stooges' brand of slapstick, not every sketch aged well. In several early shorts, the trio appeared in blackface or minstrel-style scenes, a reflection of vaudeville traditions that were still considered acceptable in the 1930s and 40s. Shorts like Uncivil Warriors, 1935, and A Pain in the Pullman, 1936, included such portrayals, often intended as caricatured disguises or comic misunderstandings. At the time, many comedians, including Abbott and Costello, and even Bugs Bunny animators, used similar tropes without realizing how deeply offensive they would later be seen. For the Stooges, it wasn't hatred but heritage. They had come from vaudeville, where exaggerated racial comedy was part of the standard act. Today, these moments are handled differently. When released on DVD or television, distributors sometimes include historical disclaimers explaining that the material reflects outdated social attitudes. Film historians now use these segments to study how entertainment evolved, a way to understand, not excuse, the biases of an earlier age. While it doesn't erase the discomfort of modern viewers, acknowledging these controversial moments offers a fuller picture of how even beloved entertainers like the Stooges were products of their time. Real pain. The Stooges' onset injuries and no protection comedy. Behind the laughter, the Stooges endured genuine pain. Their brand of physical comedy was brutal. Slaps, eye pokes, and falls weren't just stage tricks. They often hurt. Safety pads were rarely used, and prop malfunctions sometimes caused real injuries. Moe Howard, known for his leadership, insisted on realism. He preferred the slaps and hits to look and sound authentic, even if that meant bruises and black eyes. Larry Fine was hit so many times he joked that his face was insured for collisions. Curley Howard chipped teeth and once cut his scalp during a failed stunt. Unlike modern film sets, early Columbia shorts had little concern for stunt safety or medical precautions. Their pain was the price of authenticity, and audiences loved it. The realism of their chaos made the trio legends of physical comedy. Yet, off-screen, it left them battered men whose bodies bore the evidence of their devotion to laughter. In interviews years later, Moe admitted that while they never meant real harm, they paid for their comedy with aches that lasted a lifetime. Larry Fine, the classical musician turned stooge. Before he became the wild-haired stooge with a violin bow haircut, Larry Fine dreamed of being a concert violinist. Born Louis Feinberg in 1902, he was a classically trained musician from a young age. A childhood accident with acid burned his arm. and doctors recommended violin lessons to rebuild his muscles, an event that set him on the path to entertainment. By his teens, Larry was performing in Philadelphia theaters as a violin prodigy. He even had short stints in orchestras before turning to vaudeville. His quick timing and musical rhythm later became trademarks of his comedic style. Occasionally, his musical past slipped into the act. In shorts like Punch Drunks, 1934, Larry plays the violin in the opening scene, a rare nod to his real-life training. Behind the chaos, his sense of musical tempo influenced the group's timing. Moe even credited Larry's beat sense for improving their synchronized slapstick. Off-screen, Larry was known for his gentle spirit and love of art. He painted, played piano, and wrote light poetry during breaks in filming. It's an ironic truth that one of slapstick's most chaotic comedians was, at heart, a man of melody. Moe Howard, the real boss behind the mayhem. On screen, Moe Howard was the short-tempered leader who kept the others in line with slaps and shouts. Off-screen, he played a similar role, but with business instead of comedy. Moe was not just an actor, he was the Stooges' manager, negotiator, and unofficial guardian. From the 1930s through the 1950s, Moe handled contracts with Columbia's pictures, booked appearances, and often fought to keep the group together. When Curley suffered his stroke, Moe personally arranged medical care while persuading the studio to let his brother Shemp return. His sense of loyalty was unmatched. Despite his authority, Moe was underpaid for decades. Columbia treated the trio as replaceable talent, keeping profits from shorts and merchandising. Still, Moe maintained professional discipline and ensured the Stooges never missed a production deadline, a record that made them Columbia's most consistent comedy unit for 24 years. He even handled public relations, reviewing scripts and shaping their stage personas. Moe's stern exterior hid a warm heart. Colleagues recalled how he secretly gave financial aid to crew members in need, while fans saw him as the bossy stooge. Those who worked with him remembered him as the glue that held the madness together. Joe Besser and Joe DeRita, the replacement Stooges. After Shemp's death in 1955, the Stooges faced another crisis: how to keep the act alive. The solution came through two new faces: Joe Besser and later Joe DeRita, who would be nicknamed Curly Joe. Each brought unique styles but changed the group's dynamic forever. Joe Besser, already a known comedian from Abbott and Costello's circle, joined in 1956. His humor was more verbal and less physical. Unlike Curly or Shemp, he refused to take hard slaps or eye pokes, a clause written directly into his contract. This limited the trio's trademark roughhousing and gave their shorts a milder tone. When Besser left in 1958, Moe and Larry recruited Joe DeRita for feature films. DeRita's round face and gentle nature reminded audiences of Curly, and he soon revived public affection. The Curly Joe era took the Stooges into color films and television specials, expanding their reach to a new generation of children. Though fans still debate which Joe fit best, both helped extend the group's life into the 1960s. Their arrivals proved the resilience of the Stooges formula. Even with new faces, the spirit of slapstick chaos endured. Recycled props, footage, and Hollywood's cheapest comedy machine. The Three Stooges shorts were hilarious on screen, but behind the camera, they were products of one of Hollywood's most ruthless cost-cutting systems. Columbia Pictures, under producer Jules White, demanded the team film multiple shorts each year on tight budgets, sometimes as low as $20,000 per film. To save money, Columbia reused props, sets, and even entire scenes from earlier productions. For example, Fright Night, 1947, reused fight footage from Disorder in the Court, 1936, while sound effects like slaps, punches, and bonks were lifted across dozens of films. Some entire storylines were reshot with minor changes, a technique Columbia called remaking. This efficiency turned the Stooges into one of the most profitable comedy units in Hollywood, but it also wore them down physically and mentally. Moe later said the pace was like a comedy assembly line. Still, their ability to make audiences laugh with recycled chaos was a testament to their skill. Even when the footage repeated, the timing felt fresh, proving that true comedy doesn't depend on budgets, but on performers who give their all. The vaudeville roots and recycled routines of the Stooges. Before they conquered film, the Stooges honed their craft on vaudeville stages. Their earliest routines, developed under Ted Healey, were chaotic live spectacles, pokes, pies, pratfalls, and nonsensical chatter designed to keep restless theater audiences laughing. Those same acts later appeared in their film shorts, sometimes word for word. They regularly recycled entire gags across decades. The famous plumbing disaster bit appeared in a plumbing We Will Go, 1940, then reappeared in Color and Vagabond Loafers, 1949, and again in Scheming Schemers, 1956. Studios even encouraged repetition, arguing audiences forgot old versions quickly. Despite the reuse, the trio's timing gave each retelling new energy. They fine-tuned reactions, gestures, and pacing based on audience laughter. Their understanding of rhythm, a mix of vaudeville timing and musical structure, became the blueprint for slapstick that later inspired comedians like Mel Brooks and Jim Carrey. What seemed like lazy repetition was actually the perfection of a craft. The Stooges proved that physical comedy, when delivered with precision and commitment, never really gets old. The myth of Hitler's hit list and Nazi reactions to the Stooges, a strange rumor haunts Three Stooges history, that Adolf Hitler personally placed the comedians on a Nazi hit list for mocking him in You Nasty Spy and I'll Never Heil Again. While it makes for a sensational story, no historical record confirms it. The myth likely began in fan magazines during the 1960s and spread through word of mouth. What is true is that Nazi Germany banned all Stooge films from distribution. The Third Reich's propaganda ministry considered the Stooges' depiction of dictators as insulting and Jewish mockery. Given that Moe, Larry, and Curly were Jewish, their satire took on even greater symbolic weight. Scholars later noted that You Nasty Spy was far ahead of its time, lampooning Hitler before the United States officially opposed him. Moe's parody speech in fake German gibberish captured the madness of dictatorship through comedy. While no Nazi hit list ever included the Stooges, their satire clearly struck a nerve. Laughter became resistance, and through their absurdity, they delivered one of the earliest cinematic acts of defiance against fascism. Television revival, How the Stooges Became Stars Again. By the early 1950s, the Stooges were aging and nearly forgotten. Columbia had canceled their shorts, assuming the format was dead. Then came television, and everything changed. Local TV stations, desperate for cheap programming, began airing old Stooges reels in the mid-1950s. The reaction was explosive. A new generation of children discovered the trio and couldn't get enough of their slapstick chaos. Ratings soared, and by 1958, the Stooges were household names again. Their newfound fame led to live tours, new merchandise, and color feature films like The Three Stooges Meet Hercules, 1962. Moe Howard was astonished by the revival. He later said, "We thought we were finished. Then TV brought us back from the grave." The trio's humor, though born in black and white, proved timeless. Their rediscovery also helped redefine how studios valued old content. The Stooges' success convinced networks that vintage film libraries could become television gold. The rebirth of the Stooges wasn't just nostalgia, it was the first great resurrection of entertainment history, proving that laughter never expires. Punk, anarchy, and the Stooges' unexpected influence. Decades after their prime, the Three Stooges became unlikely heroes to the punk and counterculture movements. In the 1970s and 1980s, their raw chaos and anti-establishment humor resonated with musicians and underground artists who saw the Stooges as early rebels against authority. Bands like the Stooges, led by Iggy Pop, adopted their name as an homage to the group's spirit of disorder. Punk zines referenced the trio as pioneers of physical anarchy. Their eye-poking, pie-throwing slapstick was seen as symbolic defiance, comedy that mocked social order itself. Filmmakers like the Farrelly brothers and Sam Raimi later credited the Stooges' rhythm and energy as foundational to modern absurdist humor. Even animation shows like Ren and Stimpy and SpongeBob SquarePants borrowed their timing and sound effects. What began as slapstick became art rebellion. The Stooges' influence reached far beyond Hollywood, into music, animation, and the culture of chaos itself. Their spirit of fearless absurdity still fuels comedy that refuses to behave. Moe Howard's secret role as the Stooges' real-life manager. On screen, Moe was the bossy ringleader, the enforcer who slapped sense into his partners. Off-screen, he played a similar role, but with surprising dedication and intelligence. Throughout their career, Moe Howard served as the Stooges' de facto manager, handling contracts, finances, and negotiations. Unlike many performers of the era who were taken advantage of by studios, Moe kept meticulous financial records and fought to protect the team's earnings, though Columbia's tight control still meant they received a fraction of the profits their films generated. He also acted as the group's father figure. Larry Fine once said, "Moe ran us like a family. He made sure we had work, food, and didn't get lost." Behind the violent comedy was a man who deeply cared for his partner's well-being. After Curley's illness and Shemp's death, Moe worked tirelessly to keep the act alive. Even into his 70s, he was writing scripts, booking shows, and managing the brand. While audiences saw only the slapstick, Moe Howard was quietly proving himself a sharp businessman, the steady hand behind Hollywood's wildest comedy trio. The tragic decline of Larry Fine. Larry Fine, the wild-haired stooge with the violinist's grace, spent his later years in heartbreaking decline. In 1970, he suffered a massive stroke that paralyzed the left side of his body, effectively ending his performing career. Despite his illness, Larry refused to disappear. From his wheelchair, he greeted fans, gave interviews, and even participated in limited promotional appearances. His optimism remained unbroken. Visitors said he still cracked jokes about his condition. But behind the laughter was real hardship. Larry had lost most of his savings in bad real estate investments, and his medical bills mounted. His wife and daughter became his caregivers, supported partly by fan donations and occasional royalties. In 1975, Larry passed away at age 72. Moe later said, "We were brothers. When Larry died, part of me went with him." Larry Fine's story is often overshadowed by the Stooges' comedic legacy, but his resilience in the face of pain revealed a deeper heroism. Even when his body failed, his spirit kept laughing, and through that laughter, he gave his final gift to the world: the missing Curley footage and Hollywood's lost reels. Among Stooge enthusiasts, one mystery persists: the lost footage of Curley Howard. Many of his early performances, including outtakes, alternate versions, and deleted shorts plus, have vanished forever. During the 1930s and 40s, Columbia Pictures routinely destroyed old film negatives once new prints were made, considering them storage waste. As a result, historians estimate that up to 20% of early Stooge material has been lost. Particularly painful is the disappearance of Curley's alternate takes, which Moe once called his best work. Studio archivists and private collectors have spent decades searching for missing reels rumored to exist in forgotten vaults or private estates. The loss highlights Hollywood's careless approach to preservation before the 1960s. Celluloid was flammable and expensive to store, and comedy shorts were considered disposable. Still, discoveries continue. In 2019, a partial print of Hello Pop, the now once thought lost, resurfaced in an Australian archive, thrilling fans worldwide. Each rediscovered frame reminds audiences of Curley's brilliance and how fragile cinematic history truly is. The Stooges in the space race and Cold War propaganda. Few fans know that the Three Stooges once played a tiny part in America's Cold War propaganda efforts. During the 1950s, several of their shorts, particularly those with military or technological themes like Spaceship Sappy, 1957, were screened for U.S. troops abroad and even used in morale-boosting film programs. Their simple humor and patriotic undertones made them ideal cultural ambassadors. American embassies used Stooge films to promote U.S. freedom of laughter, in contrast to Soviet seriousness. Ironically, many communist nations banned the shorts for being too chaotic. Behind the laughter, their work subtly reinforced post-war optimism. The trio represented ordinary Americans, clumsy, hopeful, resilient, stumbling their way toward progress. Historians now see these comedies as lighthearted artifacts of Cold War psychology. While not official propaganda, the Stooges symbolized something larger than themselves: the belief that laughter, like democracy, could thrive even amid global tension. The enduring legacy and the Stooge DNA in modern comedy. Nearly a century after their debut, the Three Stooges remain woven into the DNA of modern entertainment. Their timing, rhythm, and physicality influenced generations of comedians, from Robin Williams to Jim Carrey. Television shows like The Simpsons, Animaniacs, and Family Guy pay direct homage through parody and imitation. The Stooges' language, their yelps, slaps, and cartoonish sound effects became a universal shorthand for chaos. In 2012, the Farrelly brothers revived the act in the Three Stooges movie, introducing their antics to new audiences. Critics were divided, but the legacy lived on, proof that true slapstick never dies. Today, the Stooges films are preserved by the Library of Congress, ensuring that future generations can witness the raw brilliance that shaped comedy forever. Their secret was simple, yet profound. In a world that often takes itself too seriously, they gave permission to laugh at everything, even pain, even failure. They were clowns, yes, but clowns who changed the world. In the end, the story of the Three Stooges is more than a tale of slapstick or comedy routines. It is a story of endurance, of three men who turned pain, hardship, and rejection into something that made millions laugh. They were often underpaid, underappreciated, and misunderstood. Yet, through pie fights and eye pokes, they built a legacy that outlived the studios that once controlled them. Their laughter crossed borders and generations, becoming a language of its own. Behind every slap was a rhythm, behind every fall was timing, and behind every laugh was truth. The Three Stooges proved that comedy at its best is not about perfection, but persistence. They stumbled through life's chaos with courage and humor, leaving behind a reminder that sometimes the best way to face the world's madness is to laugh right back at it.